Welcome to the Sports Entrepreneur Show powered by the NinjaZone, the only podcast for sports entrepreneurs that gives you an inside look into what it takes to turn your passion for sports into a business.
Hello everyone, I'm Scott Rudisell and welcome to the Sports Entrepreneur featuring Casey Wright and powered by the NinjaZone. Our daily dose of inspiration comes from your host Casey Wright's own Instagram page, and you can follow her at Casey Wright NZ. Today's quote is from Eleanor Roosevelt. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. On today's episode, Casey talks about your competition. Life itself is a competition, but your competition in business isn't the same as your competition as an athlete, for example. Enjoy the show, and I'll be back at the end to recap. Here's Casey.
What's up, everybody? Casey here with another episode of the Sports Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm so glad that you have joined me. I've been getting a lot of great feedback on this podcast, and I can tell you I'm not the most consistent person on the planet. It's something that I strive to get better at all the time. But I will be honest, there have been days where recording consistently and making sure that we have an awesome episode to deliver to everyone each week has been a bit of a challenge. Every time I get down here and every time I turn my mic on, it's fun. I love the preparation. I love the learning, but it's work. I'm not afraid of work. But anyway, I just want to tell you guys, for those of you that have either sent emails or left comments or reached out on Facebook or Instagram, I really appreciate that because that's sometimes the juice that I need to get going. My solo high fives don't always work. So thank you for that. So today we are going to talk about one of my favorite topics ever, and that is competition. My dad used to say, life is a competition. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. Do you guys remember No Fear t-shirts? So I graduated high school in 1996, and I think it was in high school. Everybody had these No Fear t-shirts, and I had one that said, second place is the first loser. Right? So super competitive. If there's a game, I'm in it. We're keeping points. I have no problem losing the game, especially like I was playing cornhole with my husband and he was just killing me and he didn't want to keep score. And I wanted to keep score because I wanted to at least lose by less points, right? And he didn't get that. Anyway, we're going to talk about competition, and I think we're all really competitive, but I think that there is a bigger picture that I just want to talk a little bit about, because I think sometimes we get our panties in a bunch when we don't need to, being worried about the guy down the street or the girl down the street, being worried about what our competition is. And especially coming from the sports world, it makes it even trickier. So for those of us that came out of sports, either as athletes or as coaches, the game that we're playing is against someone else, right? It's you're vying for either a placement or an athlete. I mean, I remember as a coach, when you have a little 6 or 7 year old walk in with a 6-pack, you want to make sure you keep that kid because that's potential talent. It's a competition for talent. At least in the gymnastics world, there's a competition for talent as a coach. It's hard to sometimes make the shift to business, owning a business, and then deciding who your competition is. And the reason why I say that is because when we're competing for talent, like pure athletic talent, it's very different than competing for business. So what I've seen through NinjaZone is as we make the switch into business, we look at our competition as the guy or girl down the street, the gym or the club down the street. So depending on whatever business you're in, it doesn't matter. We look at that competition as the other places that our customers could choose. And what I want to share here is let's really look and let's break down what that customer journey looks like. That customer that we are worried is going to leave us and go to our competition, or a new customer that we haven't met yet is going to choose the competition over us. And I want to break that down and really look at the numbers and the probability behind that, because I think it would let us all breathe a lot easier, and we wouldn't be operating from basically a place of fear when we realize how many customers there really are out there, and how supporting our neighbor, supporting the guy down the street, supporting the industry that we're in is actually way more important than the handful of customers that may choose to go one place over the other. So first, again, to reiterate, we have to understand, who are we competing for? And even two businesses that do the same thing, whether it be a soccer club or a gymnastics club, or my husband, and he's an optometrist, it doesn't matter the widget. If you have two businesses that do the same thing, they may not have the same customer, or the majority percentage of their customers may not be the same. So as always, I like to focus on the gymnastics industry or the children's fitness industry, because that's the one I know. But really understanding who is your customer is really important. Looking at who makes up the bulk of your revenue stream, that is your customer. And that is the customer that you really need to know and understand how they make their decisions, right? So for me, I'm super lucky because I am my own customer. I have 4 kids, 2 of which are in that 80% age range of the people that I service in my industry. So the same decisions that are going through my head as a mom that's running around trying to get 4 kids to different places and is the same decision that your customer is going to be making. I have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old that have friends at school and activities, and their friends are doing different sports. They don't live in the gym. They're not competitive. They are recreational. Well, she's an Excel, but she does gymnastics a couple of days a week. So my point is I am that 80%. So the decisions, my decision-making process as I am planning my kids' calendar is going to be really similar to that of the people that I'm serving. There may be another business who 80% of their revenue comes from competitive team. That, or 80% of their members come from a highly competitive team. Actually, Scarlett attends a ballet studio where they have kids that come from all over the country to train there, and they don't have a big recreational program. They just they have a few classes, and then the bulk of their operations is to train these, pre-professional and professional ballerinas. And by the way, it's also a nonprofit, and there's a reason for that. So a lot of times your recreational and your competitive teams are inversely related in terms of dollars. So that brings me back to, what game are we playing? Meaning, what are we trying to win? What's the trophy? What is the trophy to, what's the trophy? If you're looking at this from a business owner's perspective, the trophy is money in your bank account. It actually doesn't matter who it comes from. The trophy is money in your bank account. So let's just run through a scenario. You own a sports business and a competing sports business comes in down the street. For us, let's obviously use NinjaZone as an example. A NinjaZone comes in down the street. Initial thought is, we may lose kids. And that is a valid concern. You may lose kids. It may be more convenient for that family to go down the street. Or they may be less expensive, they may have a bigger, better facility, they may have fancier marketing, all of these things. And it seems scary when, as a business owner, you see competition or you see someone say, I'm going to try the place down the street. But what I want to share with everyone is there is a bigger picture. There's a bigger pie. And if you've never heard the phrase, I'd rather have a slice of a watermelon than a whole grape, that's the perspective that we all need to take as it pertains to our competition, especially if we have an industry that is growing, which everybody listening to this podcast has an industry that is growing. So if we think that we're competing for a slice of the watermelon, wouldn't it make more sense to grow a bigger watermelon than to just have a tiny grape, have the whole grape to ourselves? So the whole area, say that whole 5-mile radius to ourselves. Because what happens at that point, you go back to your customer, you go back to me, the mom that's making the decision for my child. And the bigger decision is what sport are they going to do? Or what activity are they going to choose? That's the first decision the family makes. The second decision the family makes is where are we going to do it? That is, unless the first decision the family makes is what activity is closest to my house, which I have 1000% done. We have a little sewing studio in our neighborhood. I would have never thought to put my daughter in sewing. I didn't even know they had sewing, but there happens to be one in my neighborhood. That was convenient for my family. It gave her something fun to do and build a skill. And so she took sewing lessons because it was next to my house. So when competition comes in, it may not be what you think it is. And that handful, you may have a handful. And before you get your panties in a bunch, really decide, am I losing clients? How many have I lost? And if those clients are going from your sport to your sport at another place, that's not a bad thing either. At least we're not losing them from the industry, because if they're going from your sport to a different sport, they're out, and the industry, the watermelon, doesn't grow. But if they're trying out different places, maybe for a different experience, one, you have the opportunity to get them back, and two, they still love the thing that we're providing. I do yoga, and I do yoga at several different places because sometimes I want a different experience. And there have been times where I loved this yoga place, but this one happened to be more convenient, or they had a class at a different time that just worked out for my schedule. So I moved to another place. Try it out for a while. I really miss this place. When they get something on the schedule, then I'll come back. So I hope that provides a bigger perspective of the choices that our families make, because it really, guys, it comes down to convenience. It comes down to convenience first for so many. Cost, again, is a factor for some, but cost usually comes after convenience. Very rarely would somebody pass by 2 gymnastics clubs to save $10. That doesn't happen. I heard in a lecture from Ann Josephson once, you don't take your kid to the cheapest doctor. And that's not what we're going to talk about on this podcast episode about pricing and value, but I guarantee you guys, they're not going to skip past 2 gyms to pay $10 less. So I just want to finish with another quote. All ships rise with the high tide. Lift each other up. Lift your industry competitors up. Learn what they're doing. It's called co-opetition, and it works amazing, and we all will grow that watermelon bigger. Have a good one, guys.
Life is a competition. No ifs, ands, or buts. But look at the bigger picture. The biggest challenge is yourself. You're going to get much farther by supporting your competition and supporting your industry as a whole than worrying about individual customers. You need to understand who you are competing for. You may do the same thing as the business down the street, but you may not be competing for the same customers. You need to define who your customers are and focus on them, not your competition. Consider having a slice of a whole watermelon versus a whole grape. Grow the watermelon and your slice gets bigger, right? And remember, all ships rise with the high tide. All right, that's it from us. We really hope you are enjoying the Sports Entrepreneur Podcast. Each week, we try to give you helpful information about business that you can apply as you grow in and within your own company, no matter your position. And if you go to thesportsentrepreneur.com, you can sign up for our email list and be notified every time a new episode goes live. And we will also automatically send you any bonus content that we may produce each week, so you don't have to go and find it. Good stuff, right? And if you have any feedback or comments, please share them by commenting on our website, thesportsentrepreneur.com, or by emailing us at podcast@theninjazone.com. Like what you hear, leave us a review on iTunes, like our page, The Sports Entrepreneur, on Facebook, share the love by sharing our podcast on social media, and help us help others by spreading the word. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.